गुड मॉर्निंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉर्ट में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today we're going to talk of why Qiang Zhong. What's that? That's China's paradox. What does why Qiang Zhong mean? It means outwardly strong, inwardly brittle. Did I coin this? No, I didn't. Sorry. This was coined by the Chinese. And in fact, it is not was coined by the Chinese, it has been coined by the Chinese. That's the interesting part. And this little graphic about China, this is what China looks like. There's a boom and bust cycle, right? Help and ah and ooh and we and help. So this is the way the Chinese growth or whatever it is there. It's ups and downs, ups and downs. And we know for a long time now that China has had tremendous problems. I've been talking of it. But equally, there are a lot of people who say, well, China is the next superpower. What is the truth? The truth is always somewhere in between. And that makes China just a normal state with normal problems. It doesn't make it a superpower. It doesn't make it a economically weaker nation. So the point is, we need to understand it in the real balance, which you have to see. I already see a question. General Shankar, is China externalizing their issues fighting Japan? Japan might be easier to fight compared to India and US. Well, that's part of the game. Will China fight? We'll talk of it tomorrow. But today, what we're going to see is this thing of externalization versus internalization. And what's interesting is this is being felt within China. And that's the crux of the story. I've been thinking of this for a long time. And I said, look, how do I put it and all that? Till I hit upon this story. It's a very, very good story, article. I wouldn't say it's a story, it's an article. It's an article in New York Times. It says that China that the world sees is not the one I live in. Right? And this article is pretty recent, 13th November. Well, many people say New York Times is, left-leaning, right-leaning, all that. I'm not too bothered about that. But they give some of the best commentary and best researched articles. And whatever comes out of them is fully researched. You might not agree with it. That's a different story. But they present you a facet. And this facet which they presented is interesting because a lot of it has been picked from China. So let's go over it initially and then I'll highlight both sides of the story. It says, look, Chinese people today live with a strange paradox. And I'm now quoting direct verbatim from this story. What does it say? Internationally, China looks strong. Okay? It is America's only rival in terms of the power to shape the world. The recent meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping of China, in which the leaders announced the trade war truce, has fed this narrative. One, that Beijing is only too happy to promote. That narrative is about a resilient nation united in the face of external challenges. The flip to this, that muscular facade is punctured here in China, where despair about dimming economic and personal prospects is pervasive. This contrast between a confident state and its very population is captured in a phrase Chinese people are using to describe their country, Wai Qiang Zhonggan, roughly translated as outwardly strong, inwardly brittle. This is interesting. The Chinese are calling their own country as being outwardly strong, inwardly brittle, right? And that to me is something which we need to take note of and analyze and see, is it right? Or let's say, what's the reality? Which side of the balance is the reality flowing? Okay, let me get further into this analysis and the points made in this analysis, and then I'll get to my way of looking at it. It says the government is more concerned with building global influence and dominating export markets than in addressing the challenges of their households. Then it, somewhere it says and it elucidates the state crackdown on the private sector is widely blamed for undermining the middle class livelihoods. This is important. What is this state crackdown on private sector? I mean, look, today if you go to China and you talk to a lot of articles, and I've discussed that China is trying to promote private enterprise, yeah, all that, and Xi Jinping took a big meeting of all the industrialists and private people, yeah. But what is this private crackdown? This is the private crackdown which was done on the EdTech and the FinTech 3 years back, in which $2 trillion of their economy was destroyed overnight. And people now feel that, look, that has sorted them out. That's interesting, isn't it? So whatever you do, 3-4 years back, or it will come to haunt you now, and that's haunting China. You don't destroy 2 trillion of your economy and then say, "Oh, I'm a superpower." It doesn't happen. And this is a reality, right? Okay. Then what people feel, financial resources are channeled into strategically important industries, electric vehicles, solar power, and shipbuilding. And this is at the expense of what has to go to the people. And then it comments that China's global chokehold on the supply and processing of rare earth elements has caused air and soil pollution at home. And that there's no doubt. In fact, China has paid a very heavy price for all its hold on the minerals and this and that and all that. I mean, one shouldn't even think that what I'm saying is not right. It is. And this is coming out from within. In fact, which I didn't, I have not shown to you, but in this article, the analyst has given links to people, so you can access this article in New York Times. That's why all my talk is referenced. The reference is in the picture. You just have to take that headlights and check it out. Okay, then it goes on to say, while the government boasts, a viral social media post pointed out everyday struggles like finding work, putting food on the table, and educating children are fraught with difficulty. Winning the trade war with United States means preparing to sacrifice some of the people. The author wrote. Censors soon blocked this post and others like it. So when there is heavy censorship, and this post is interesting. I mean, I couldn't read it because it's blocked. The feelings of the people don't come out. It's not like India, where you can call your prime minister an idiot and get away with murder. Both. That is China. You can't talk about your government. And, well, so what is being shown to us outside is far different from what is inside. And this is coming out from the Chinese people themselves. Right? Okay. And here I go. Look, this is Xi Jinping conducting an orchestra. And who's in front? This is the media. Okay. The media, if you see this cartoon very closely, it shows a media which is completely muzzled and Xi Jinping conducting an orchestra, the Chinese media. And mind you, this was published in 2016. Has things changed? No, nothing. Nothing has changed there. When you assess China, you have to understand, and we all have to understand, that we are examining one facet of China. That is what China wants us to see. We are not examining that part of China which China doesn't want us to see. Okay, let's look at what China wants us to see. That's, you know, interesting. What China wants us to see is that their new aircraft carrier, it signals great naval ambitions, and it's their most advanced carrier, and it brings the country closer to challenging US naval dominance. That's the big story as far as. And then what China wants us to see and examine, and this is done by Washington Post, says how China came to dominate the world in renewable energy and how China eclipses every other country in the world. So this is China's greatness, which is being projected by their media and being amplified by international media. Why is it being amplified by international media? It is being amplified by international media because the Chinese have huge stakes in it. Have you ever wondered why in Bollywood or in Hollywood there are no films against China? There are no films against China. That China gets defeated, China is shown poorly, it's never shown. Even in our nationalistic Bollywood movies, it's never shown. It is never shown because China has bought these films out. They bought into these industries. Financing for these industries comes through China. And I'm making an open statement. Like if Amir Khan's movie Dangal makes a lot of money in China for whatever he's portrayed, okay, why would he make a film against China? Because then his Dangal will and such movies will not sell in China. It's not direct, but indirect. This is something we have to understand. And that is why that cartoon, which shows Z as the conductor, is very important to understand. Okay. And then you have whole lot of analysis by reputed, sites. Now these days they talk of China continues to upstream expansion in supply chains. And then there's internal analysis that look, the United Nations should move to China because China is the greatest. These analyses are rampant today in the Chinese media. They talk of a declining America and a rising China, and a China which is not rising, it has risen. And everyone, and elements of the global governance should come to China. Okay. And then there's also this business which keeps coming up. China is great. It's narrowing the nuclear gap between US and with US and Russia. It's well known. Their rockets are the best, their missiles are the best, longest range, space, everything is China. Their nuclear proliferation is huge. Fabulous missiles, all that. It puts, uh, it influences everyone's mind. It has influenced people in India for many reasons. We've spoken of it also, right? And you heard of, Zhang Yuxia being against Xi Jinping, Yevo, all that. But after the fourth plenum last month, comes out and talks for China, and he talks how PLA is being restructured for China, and that now he's as emerged as the best buddy of Xi Jinping in this article, and PLA is the strongest. So PLA is the strongest. Everything China dominates this. China wants you and all that. The strength of China. And China has big ambitions in space and Arctic, and should the West be worried? Man, China is going to be the one who's going to conquer the Arctic routes. It's going to the one who's going to go to the Antarctic, to the moon, to the Mars, and every place. And these articles come out and ask questions like this: should the West be worried? These are picked up by Western media and amplified. Right? And then, of course, as America fumbles, China races ahead. And this is what keeps coming out. So this is the outwardly strong China, which I spoke of. Why Zhang? What is that Why gang? Whatever the damn story is. Why Qiang? Yeah, this is the Why Qiang. Outwardly strong. Zhong Gan is inwardly brittle. So this is the external strength of China which is being projected and everything. Okay, now what? Then there is dominance. So now articles like this are coming out. Now Takaichi must soon make amends if China ties are to be repaired. So what they have a spat with Japan, about which I spoke yesterday. So now the article comes out, it says, right, if Japan wants to make amends ties with China, Takaichi should virtually, it says, apologize to China. Things are changing. Right? The tone which they adopt is changing. And then, of course, in soybean diplomacy with US, China now holds the remote control. And such articles suggest that China holds the remote control against USA, China holds the remote control against, Japan, it holds against India, everywhere. Why? It controls everything. That's why the UN should move this, that, outwardly strong. Why Qiang? So this is one part of the narrative which is coming out of China. Very interesting. But this is it. And this is the China we believe in. Of course, China has a huge economy. They've done well there. But the question is, are they as strong as it made out? Is China the panacea for all global ills? Have they taken responsibility to solve even one problem? Where is China in solving the problem between Russia and Ukraine? Where is China in solving the problem in the Middle East? Where is China in solving the problems of the Indo-Pacific? In one word, China is the problem in most of these cases. Of course, in the Middle East, it's got very little role. But China is the problem in Russia-Ukraine problem or the Indo-Pacific. It's the main protagonist. So how can it be if China is the main problem on all these places or the main protagonist of these stories? How can it be the solution to global ills? But the projection is outward strength. Okay, now let's switch. Let's change track. Let's see Zhong Gan, inwardly brittle. Look at this article, or rather, look at this Yeah, sorry. Yeah, look at this cartoon. It says we now need to populate these ghost cities. Ghost cities are a reality of China. We all know that. But now they need people. Remember, I always keep saying the Achilles heel of China are the people. This is a country, this is the greatest paradox. This is a country of nearly 1.4 million, billion people. It could be 1.3, it could be a little less. That's it. It's 1 million, 1 billion plus. In a country of 1 point plus 1 billion plus people, clearly in the region of 1.3 billion, China has a problem of people. They don't have people. That is the greatest paradox. You want us to think, how is it that this country of 1.3 billion plus people have no people to populate the flats they have built or the properties they have built? And I'll come this back to the story later. Okay, and this is it. Their analysis today morning. I picked this up today morning from South China Morning Post. They say, look, China's property slump could hinder growth for 5 more years. And this is coming from their ex-finance minister. Right? So this is the paradox. They have the property, they don't have the people. And if they don't have, or rather, if the property sector doesn't revive, China's economy is done for the next 5 years. And he is saying something very palatable about 5 years. My guess is another 10 years. That's the minimum. And in any case, after 5 years, this is my prediction. And I keep making it. After 5 years, in 5 years, you'll see we will talk of a different China, that I promise you. A China which is deep in crisis of its population. And let me explain this. Why? And I'll explain it to you tomorrow also. 5 years back, when I spoke of the population crisis, everyone said, no, there's no population crisis in China. Everyone said, as per the Chinese statistics, that China has a problem of population. That problem will not surface till 2030. Even after 2030, it is manageable. But certainly 2 years back, they said our population is decreasing. And we are in a crisis. And in 2 years down the line, every fifth, sixth article talks of its population crisis. Obviously, there's something we are missing. Population. People. People matter in any state. And if they don't have people, they're inwardly brittle. And that is a house of cards. This is it. This is that cartoon. Look at this falling small birth rates, driving a huge China and towards economic growth. Is it feasible? This cartoon tells you more about the problems of China, the inward brittleness of China than anything else. Right? And now we all say the story that, China exports the maximum cars and EVs, yevo. Today, suddenly China has discovered, the government has discovered about this zero mileage racket. What is the zero mileage racket? Cars are sold, shown as sold, and then they are sold with zero mileage as second hand vehicles at a lower price. And they are sold somewhere else. But the thing with the zero mileage thing is it comes with no guarantees. So how far will this whole story continue? New Juan, involution. Today the government is cracking down on it. When people like me spoke of it, said 1 year back, 1.5, 2 years back, yeah, you're an idiot. I am an idiot. But then today the government is the bigger idiot. The China is the bigger idiot. That's what's coming out by their own admission. That's why I keep saying you want to get a true picture of China, you don't have to look far. You have to look into China. You will have to look into what people write. You have to see the people. You examine the people of this country, and they will tell you the truth one way or the other. And you have to take the propaganda out and see the truth. Take the facade out and see the truth, and it comes out. And I'm talking of China after a long time now. Okay. Well, FDI into China has declined 51%. This is cold statistics done by Nikkei Asia. This is, see, many things about China is mathematical. It's not imaginary. It's there. You have to see. Okay? And when you put all those pieces together, a China emerges, which many people don't like, many people like. I'm factual about it. And China's export unexpectedly falter as prices keep falling. This is, of course, from New York Times. But then this is based on Chinese figures. The fact that prices in China are falling is well known. It is deflationary. There's a deflationary trend in China which is not reversing. And last month, their exports fell. So that export machine is sputtering. They think that they can get away with, this is where people underestimate America. Whether you like it or not, that's a nation which has its own problems, but is far more structurally stronger than China. Yeah, we can talk of America being, what it is, and their current government, Trump's government, is breaking their own structures. The structures which have stood them in good stead and made them what they are. But China doesn't have them. At one point of time during the Cultural Revolution, it was exporting agriculture, which failed and led to a famine and all that. Then it was export of cheap items. Then their economy grew on property. They said, we'll do inward property. Properties failed. Now they're looking at exports. Export has started failing. It'll fail. How long will the world continue to buy cheap Chinese goods? There's a limit. And if US doesn't buy, they're sunk. They can talk what they want. There's no replacement for US as far as China is concerned, because China is an export dependent economy as against us, which is a domestic driven economy. If we don't export to USA, yeah, instead of growing at 6.5, you'll grow at maybe 6.3 or 6.2. That's all. But not in China. That's why China is plummeting. And of course, for them, it's a mystery of China's plummeting some investment. FDI is not coming, which I showed, being confirmed by other sources. This is actually an article by Financial Times. And then there's a question which is coming. Why are China's generals so quiet when they're being purged? This kind of purge in the Chinese military has never happened. And we'll talk of it tomorrow. But this is part of the inward brittleness. That's why I brought this up. We'll talk of deeper things tomorrow when I say, will China go to war? That's the question I'm going to answer. Right? And China keeps saying, we don't interfere in any war, this, that. But look at Myanmar. It's playing both sides of the divide. Why is it playing both sides? It's supporting the junta and the rebels. Because both of them affect China. And China is worried about both. Deflationary pressures persist in China on weak demand and overcapacity. Need yuan, everything. It is their problem. Understand this. There's a huge issue, there's a huge problem in China. Now, to me, it is a paradox, huge paradox. There is deflation, and deflation is reported within China, deflation is reported outside China, about China. If prices are falling, there's weak demand, people are not buying. How is it that this GDP is growing? I I checked on this. There's something called good deflation. What is good deflation? Good deflation is prices are falling, people are buying. If that happens, the production increases, technology increases, and all that. It's good deflation, in which case there's growth. But that's not what's happening in China. What's happening in China is prices are falling, no demand, people are not buying. Now, exports are also falling. So their growth, their GDP is just being driven by production, unsold inventories. So if that is the case, is it growth? And that growth is false growth or dead growth. I call it the dead GDP. I've always called it the dead GDP. And the dead GDP is in the form of the ghost cities of China. Right? And we say that, look, China is strong outward, yeah, all that. This article, very interesting article. Okay, it says, in the face of Trump's tariff bullying, why do ASEAN countries compromise one after the other instead of uniting against it? Well, people say that, the ASEAN has been completely, uh, you know, bought over by China. The trade with ASEAN and China is increasing. ASEAN countries and China's neighborhood is in the grip of China. Then why are such articles coming? By Chinese. Do you call them American bullying? So what if? What you call it? There is Chinese bullying, American bullying, both are on everyone. There's nothing new. So if this article, you analyze, all these Asian people are deferring to America. Why? Right? And China is not able to prevent it. And they're asking is, why are they not uniting against America? In a way, they are uniting against China. So why is China externally strong? The Chinese analysis itself indicates the paradox which we believe, that China has tremendous influence in its neighborhood. It might not have. In fact, this article says it does not have. They don't know what to do, because, fundamentally the thing is very simple: lack of trust. Now the purges, it's not only military, it's also concerning others. Aerospace industry heads, this is what has happened. It has expelled the former aerospace boss and military auditor from top legislature. They have now banned 3 more universities which have to do something with defense. The brittleness continues. Okay, then this is an article of South China Morning Post, which says China's factory activity contracts for the 7th month amid trade war uncertainty. How long can people produce? And how long can you say, I'm the biggest exporter in the world? You might be the biggest exporter in the world. You export to everyone. Everyone buys, but they're buying at rock bottom prices. So how long can you sustain this state subsidy system? Because the people in the factories and the production agencies, And the businesses in China are surviving on state subsidies. And state subsidies come from the people of China. And that I've told you, that I've explained this unholy racket within. So if the state subsidies come from within China, they're skimming the people off. How long will it continue? It will continue because people will keep working. 1 million plus people, 1 billion plus people will have to work for their livelihood. They have to eat everything, and whatever little they save, and Chinese are huge savers, they'll put it in the with the government. The government will give it to subsidies and tell the factories keep producing. Even if it is not sold, it doesn't matter. And that is why they'll come across with zero mileage schemes. Actually, if you look at it, the zero mileage racket which is there in China about the electric vehicles is true of everything else in China. Now they've said, look, from here on to 2035, our target is only 4.17% GDP growth in this article. Have a look at it fully. It says China names GDP benchmark for headline target is 4.17% annual growth through 2035. This is their official story, which indicates that their growth is not going to be very great. And mind you, when they fix this 4.17%, also is on the plus side. Right? And, well, people are looking for jobs. The job situation is very poor in China. This keeps coming out in their own stories. This is not from elsewhere. This is not coming from New York Times or Washington Post and all. They look fair wages as the heading. China's young job seekers to take resumes to trade expos. So all these trade expos, when people go there, they take their resumes, एक भाई job दे दो हम. This is what's happening there. Okay. Then we talk of their infrastructure, this, that, all that. We all know today this is viral all over. Okay. It's about the number one honky bridge at the hydropower station which has broken off because of a landslide. But the fact is, we don't know whether the landslide occurred or not. What we know is the bridge is gone. If you see Chinese infrastructure, whether it's due to natural disasters or otherwise, their infrastructure is being hit. It's going down. Firstly, they have built more infrastructure than needed. And that infrastructure they needed, they built violates all fundamental issues of planning. They have. Otherwise, you look at it. This great Three Gorges Dam which they had built. It is the water in the Three Gorges Dam actually slows down the Earth's rotation by 0.001 second in a year. Now that great dam, to save that dam, they had to break 13 dams more. Last year before last, during floods. And in breaking 13 dams, they flooded innumerable number of places. Last year, Beijing was under floods. And to save Beijing, they diverted the flood water somewhere else and killed more people. That is China. This bridge falling down shows you the brittleness of Chinese planning. It's only emblematic of that whole story. Okay, right? Now China talks of rare earths and this and that and domination and all. It's temporary. Last year itself, China started realizing that look, in 5 years to 10 years, or rare earth dominance will go. Okay. And in this trade war, China weaponized rare earths. Now, what has happened? Yeah, temporarily, USA has bent back and said, okay, we want rare earths, we'll give you whatever happened. But the other thing is, whatever USA and the rest of the world were doing, the efforts have redoubled. The speed has redoubled. If last year the expectation, if last year the expectation was that China's rare earth dominance will finish in 5 years, today people are talking of 2 years. So places where they're dominating are also running away. You have to understand the trend lines. And then people like this, analysis like this come, why China is going full speed ahead with debt-ridden high-speed rail. Their high-speed rail doesn't give adequate return on income, but yet they're going ahead. You're going to have a China with high-speed rails going all over, achieving nothing. They're not even recovering the debt which was given to them. In the planning, if you go into the detailed planning of this high-speed rail, it's an eye-opener. They built stations in the middle of nowhere, hoping that if I build a station, around that station, infrastructure will come up. If infrastructure comes up, people will move in and all. People can't because they don't have money. And they don't want to invest in property anymore. So the high-speed rail system in China is between population centers. So people don't use it because they have to go far to use it. Because the occupancy rates are low, they've increased the prices. As a result, the common man can't afford it. Cause and effect. But yet they're continuing. Wasted infrastructure. Now, all this debt comes from the common man again. China is not taking money from IMF, YEVO, all that. It's taking money from the common man. I keep saying China is a rich state with poor people. And this has been its history. This is not something which is new to the communist way of life. You will see all their empires. All their empires were rich, but the Chinese people were poor. And that's what's happening. And slowly this communist rule, and the communist government of China is taking China back to the pre-revolution days. Slowly, it's happening. You have to see the history to understand what's happening. Right? Yeah, you look at this, as China becomes moderately aged, how will its economy change? This is the thing which came 3 days back. And I'm now being one-sided. I've gone largely by what South China Morning Post has come out, but that's how it is. China is not moderately aged now. It's pretty aged. And again, my prediction, 2030 will do this same analysis on their population. And you'll see a starkly different analysis. We'll talk. Maybe that day my videos will become famous. But the fact is, this is it. How can aged people drive an economy? Do I drive my economy? I can't spend the money I'm earning. And this is true of any aged person. Because my needs are less. I can't eat more, I can't drink more, I can't travel in a great car. I can't do it. My needs are less. I'm okay. I mean, in the sense, I'm one of the better off citizens of this country. But there are so many old people who are from, poorer classes who can't afford all that. Old people, aged people don't drive economies. They drive thinking. And that thinking is not being allowed in China. What is the greatest wealth I have? My experience, which is free of cost, which I have to distribute, also free of cost. If that I can't do, this nation won't grow. And that's what's happening in China. That is their brittleness. Old people are not meant to drive economies. They are to help young people drive economies. If that doesn't happen, thank you. And this is what a Nobel laureate has said. Fix the property, restore confidence, tariffs are secondary. To China. He's because he studied China. Property comes down to property. I started with ghost cities, coming back to property. I said I'll come back. Restore confidence. No one has confidence. If I'm not confident, how will I ensure whatever I do is a success? There's no trust. I'll add one more thing. There's no trust. Instill trust in the other person. Instill hope. Yeah, there will be die-hard people who still feel that China is growing better, faster, yay, wo. If we follow the Chinese model, we are sunk. Let me tell you this. Right? And I always keep saying that look, the Chinese model is the worst model for India. Yeah, certain things of China we must imbibe, there's no doubt. But the Chinese model is the worst. India should be a better India and not another China. We'll be worse off. So, I do hope you liked this podcast on the paradox of China. Why Qiang? Zhong Gan. Outwardly strong, inwardly brittle. If you like this, do press the like button and subscribe to Gunner Shot and press the bell icon. I'll be grateful to all of you. And I'll be grateful to all of you who can join as members. And I'm also extremely grateful and thankful to all those who have joined me as members and have stood by me. With this, I'll take a few questions on. Right. I'd like to thank Karam for joining me as a new member. And I'd like to thank Sham Tarun, who's been a regular contributor. Thank you, Sham, for your super sticker. Let me take some questions. Okay. Ladybird Haru, good morning. And General Shankar, is China externalizing their issues? We spoke about this. They will externalize, but whether they'll fight, we'll see tomorrow. Sir in shirt, but I'm watching in blanket because no, that's okay. That's a fair one. This is India. In fact, if you give me a chance, I'll take the shirt out also in Chennai. But look, I'm wearing a linen shirt. But this is India, the India of contrast, the India I'm proud of. Right. Yeah, welcome to Gunner Shot. Gunner Shot mein aapka swagat hai. Thank you. Manoj, morning. Yeah. Kamis Ama, good morning. Akash, Jai Hind. And I don't think China should be treated as an enemy. Yes, they have Indian land and 62, but look at what they have achieved in 20 years. Almost 1 billion people out of poverty. India should learn from that. Well, I don't agree with you. China is our enemy. They have no doubt about it. They're doing everything to ensure that you go down. I mean, you shouldn't have doubts about these things. They have achieved what they have achieved. I have no doubt. But look at what you've achieved. And I keep saying, you should never compare yourself with China. You should be a better India than another China. And we have enough experiences of our own. And you have to have see the history of China and the history of India to understand the major difference as to why we should not be like China. Yeah, instead, why not resolve border dispute and move on and learn from China? How do you resolve the border dispute? Because the resolution is what they want, not on a 50-50 basis. Can India give up its complete Arunachal Pradesh? Can India give up Aksai Chin, which has been invaded and taken over by China? Both these are the problems of China. And what is there to learn about China? I'd like to know. Their broken bridges, their falling population, their pollution, and you've seen outwardly strong, inwardly brittle. India is exactly the opposite of that. We are actually inwardly strong and outwardly brittle. You have to understand this. I understand that you might be a Chinese, but this is the way I'll answer it. Good morning, Kiran. Thanks a lot. The chicken neck area heating up with China and Bangladesh planning nothing. They can do nothing. And we'll talk of it. Don't worry. I did speak of the chicken neck in my talk with Chumbi Valley. Go see that video and you will see the chicken neck can never be taken over by anyone. Yeah, donate $100 and see if your holds weight. Wait, I agree with you. Blue Water Navy. We'll talk of this Blue Water Navy tomorrow. Xi Jinping, during the bilateral meet with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, said it is the right choice for India to be friends, India and China to be friends. Maybe now China will lead in checking. We'll talk of all this tomorrow. We'll talk of this fact. We'll talk of the fact that China is no one's friend. Xi Jinping can say anything, but we know he talks lies. Okay, he's lied to his own people, so why should we, right? Sonia, good morning. Yeah, does Xi Jinping want those headquarters in so that they can now lead the 1945 world order? But is that possible when world is changing rapidly and it's different from 1945? Well, that's the reality. What is their desire and what they're aiming and what they want to coerce everyone to accept? Outwardly strong, inwardly brittle. Who will accept it? Yeah, Jayant, namaskaram. Thanks a lot. When then give me your freedom, I'll give you economic prosperity. Now Z says, give me your prosperity, I'll give you security, your views. This is what I've been talking of. This is the change which Z has brought. He's changed. He says, now give me your freedom, I'll give you security. Forget about prosperity. And that, I don't know where it's going to take China. It's up to the Chinese people. The Chinese people will get what they want. The Chinese people get what they deserve. And what they deserve and what they want, if it is Xi Jinping and the CCP, all the best to them. Yeah, the ghost cities are aplenty, but they are unlivable and falling apart. I agree with you. So why do they put numbers to their child policy? They can just say no limit on having child. Do they want to feel that they are? Yes, that's it. Whether they have a one child policy, three or say 10-child policy, it doesn't matter. It's not working. That is why you see such articles now coming regularly. Look, the population of China will decrease at breakneck speed. I keep saying this. The population of China is decreasing at the fastest rate in human history. What it took a century to happen in Europe is happening under 2 decades in China. It's not simple. They wait 5 years. Already I've seen the results of what my predictions were of 3 years back now. Wait 5 years. Just 5 years. You'll see. We will talk of a Chinese catastrophe. You will talk of it. Take it from me. You have to understand the Tiananmen Square incident for one child policy. I don't know. I don't know whether that's right. Okay. Tiananmen happened much later after than the one child policy came in. Yeah, Air China, South China, Southern and East China, Eastern are among the 7 carriers to offer refunds or hours after Beijing urges nationals to avoid Japan trips. I spoke of it yesterday. Yeah. Yeah. China added only around 1 trillion after 2021. Seems your prediction was spot on. That will be the lost decade. It's happening. It's a matter of time. Things will fall in place. Um, Did Kissinger America plan this? They gave all the tech manufacturing to China in return for one child policy. I don't think so, but the fact is that Kissinger and America did a great foolishness by handing their technology, and not only that, they also encouraged Europe to hand over their technology, everything, and outsource everything to China. Look, one thing we must understand, this is a macro issue I'm talking of. We have a China problem which is different from the rest of the world. Our China problem is how to deal with our border and things like that. The rest of the world's China problem is they're now got locked into China and they can't get away from China. We might be dependent on them for certain items. That's a different story. We have a better way, better thing of coming out. We have different problems. फॉर देम उन्होंने तो अपना जमीर बेच दिया यार, उन्होंने अपना सब कुछ जायदाद भी दे दिया चाइना को फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. अब चाइना वाला उनका ले रहा है. Yeah, yeah, PRC is raking up diplomatic tensions with Japan to distract from internal economic. Possible. I mean, I've told you, externally strong, internally brittle. Part of the story. Yeah, your way of analyzing geopolitics through cartoons is unique. Nobody else does it. A single cartoon conveys more than an entire article. I've always believed that. That gives you a see, a cartoonist has the capability, any cartoonist. I have a lot of respect for them. They have the capability of identifying a problem and putting it across in its stark reality in a funny manner and an appealing manner. That's the truth. And we need to start realizing the truth. And all these cartoons which I show about whether it's Pakistan or China and all, they reflect the truth. And we have to understand the truth. Yeah, China works on running capital. When exports fall, the running capital goes away. Well, to some extent you're right, but to a large extent the running capital comes back from people. That's the subsidy trap of China. Where in the near future the South China seems imminent. Will the Chinese make a deal with the US, become a vassal state? We'll talk about it tomorrow. After the Galwan incident in particular, and keeping in perspective the aftermath of Op Sindoor, the Chinese may be of the view that paper dragon projection is the way forward. I agree with you completely, Akash. Look, China has always had this capability of projecting itself as larger than life. And we've all fallen for it. This is the Chinese propaganda. Keep repeating a lie till the time it is something which you believe in, and thereafter the truth doesn't matter. That's the important thing. See, when you keep telling a chap a lie that China is the greatest, When you show that China is not as great at it is spoken of, people say, "Yeah, he's a bewkoof. He doesn't know," because they are mentally not prepared to accept something else. And I'll show you a clip as to how it is done. This art was actually perfected by the Russians, the Soviet Russia, and they used to teach it. They used to teach it to people, and that the Chinese Mao saw the value of propaganda and took over. I'll show you that clip one of these days. Yeah, US economy is also faltering. People are buying, not possible. I'm not saying no. We're not talking of the China, US. We're talking of China. Yeah. Indian central and state governments have to control real estate and living costs and focus more on tier 3 cities. Otherwise, it will be difficult to compete with Chinese manufacturers. I agree with you. There's no doubt. Right. Um Yeah, government, there's a lot of concerns in NRI community about investment protection. Government has to bring land reforms, investment protection, and judiciary reform. There are a lot of corrupt judges in judiciary. This is not new, this is an old story. The judicial system in our country is corrupt, it is known, but at some point it works. Okay, let me fast forward and see if there's a new one. Yeah, unrelated, free AI, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, DeepSeek are all a trap to create dependencies in decision making and rot the brain and monetization at a premium at a later stage. Your views, 100% agreed. 100%. So is this perhaps the one strategic arena of similarity between both of us? We are both more than capable of standing up to all external enemies. It's our internal issues that has hold us back. I don't agree with you. Like I said, China is internally weak, externally it projects something. The flip is true for us. We are internally strong, externally brittle. We are not the same. Yeah, new family setup is different in India, but nuclear family will become a bigger problem with us. I agree with you. But what will stand us in good stead is our culture. Okay, it's our culture. See, the Chinese also had a tremendous culture. A lot of it is still there, but it was largely broken by the Communist Party. They've not been able to get it back. We have not had this problem. In fact, to a large extent, whether you might say anything you want about the BGP, RSS, and all, to a large extent, they've revived our culture. So, to that extent, we are okay. Yeah, 150 watching, only 30 likes. Hit the, yeah, please hit the like button. I'll be grateful to all of you. Navdeep Singh, Jai Hind, thanks for joining in. Amitesh, good morning, and Jai Hind. Do you think a model of India having a stronghold in the economic growth of our neighborhood like China has of India should be acted upon? What should be the steps? It has to be incremental. Already, you see, Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka are dependent on you. Okay. It's a matter of wait out with Bangladesh, be patient. They will also come back. They can't go anywhere else. And of course, if they have to go somewhere else, let them go. Because today I think Bangladesh is a basket case, and we have to deal with basket cases differently. One of these days, I'll do an article. I'll do a podcast on Bangladesh, how to handle it. Don't expect Pakistan to be dependent on us. Afghanistan, yes. So if you have 4 people in your neighborhood of 6 to 7, you're okay, and that's the way forward. Yeah, Chinese politics and society is different from India, especially politics. I agree with you completely. Uh, Should India make Tamil Nadu a special economic zone and make TN a rich state, then TN can invest in the rest of India like what Taiwan did for China? No, I don't agree with this. That's a danger. We don't want the China model, please. We don't want the China model. I think every state should grow on its own. We don't have any friends. We are sandwiched. We need to become like Israeli, self-reliant. Sorry, I don't agree with you. You are internally strong, externally brittle. We will be that way for a long time, and I'm happy with it. What's the current status of Chinese hierarchy? Xi seems still alive and kicking. Tomorrow, we'll talk of it tomorrow. Yeah, salute, sir. China is a nutshell, is like Medi Pandu, which is a cluster fig which shines from outside, but when cut, infested. Yeah, I agree with you. It's infested and you can't eat it. Could the missile fired by China across Taiwan was an intended one and not missed? No, no. They again, you're falling for the Chinese propaganda. The fact is that it went awry. In fact, after that, there was a purge in China. After that 11 missiles which were fired, hardly 4 5 of them landed in the right place. The rest all went haywire. What they don't show that. But there was a purge in China after that. And I've spoken of it also. Those who say China is our friend, are you willing to give up your Arunachal for them? Have you ever been to Arunachal? It has crystal clear waters, heavenly breath, and the peace of Buddha's lap. Idiot. Yeah, I agree with you. Okay. Yeah. Sir, thoughts on China's LAC build-up? They're building infrastructure close to LAC. They're only building up infrastructure close to LAC. So are you. As much as they're building up, one of these days I'll do a program on LAC infrastructure and all. They're worried about the new Nyoma Air Base. Nyoma Air Base is what? 30 kilometers from the IB or the LAC. In fact, if you go to the Nyoma Air Base, you can see Chushul or a Zangla. Okay, the complete Kailash Ridge. In fact, if that when Nyoma Air Base comes up from the LAC, the base is seen. It might not be even tenable, but it's a different thing. I'll do this analysis a little down the line, maybe next week. I've got it in my thing. I'll talk of this Nyoma Air Base and things like that. Okay, right. We've come to the end of our discussion today. Thanks a lot for joining. And tomorrow we'll answer this question: can China go to war? I had to speak about Japan yesterday. I had to speak about this paradox. Keep in mind that keep this paradox in mind when tomorrow when we talk of can China go to war. Today evening, I'm going to focus on Pakistan, 27th Amendment, and what it means for its nuclear affairs. And we're going to talk with Brigadier Arun Sehgal, who's done a research on this. We'll talk about it in the evening. Join in the evening at 7 o'clock in the evening today. Doing it a little early because Brigadier Arun Sehgal wants it done at 7. So at 7 o'clock, we'll talk about the nuclear fallout of the 27th Amendment in Pakistan. Till then, have a great day. Enjoy yourself and thank you for joining Gunner Shot. Subscribe to Gunner Shot. Jai Hind.